Hello everyone, it's Jenny Fitterer here, and I am here with your Taurus season forecast. So we're just going to talk a little bit about some of the astrology that's going to be happening this season, and we'll do a quick little tarot reading, and that will be that. So I'm just going to dive right in. The sun's just setting, so I don't know if the second half of the video is going to be like kind of dark. We'll find out if I can get through this before it's dark. So yes, welcome to Taurus season. All of these times are going to be in Pacific time, and of course if my eyes scoot over to the side here, it's because I'm checking out my notes. So Taurus season is starting on April 20th and it runs until May 21st. So that means that on April 20th, the sun is going to be moving into Taurus. And so we're moving from Aries season, this cardinal fire energy, the first sign of the zodiac, and we're slowing right down into Taurus. So Taurus is an earth sign and it's a fixed sign. So it is the most stable, grounded sign of the zodiac. So what that means is being an earth sign, it's very, very concerned with the body and physical things. So Taurus really is our physical body, our senses. So our sight, our smell, our touch, our pleasure, our experience with food and the physical form is very, very much what Taurus is interested in. So when the sun moves into Taurus, we might be a little bit more aware and interested and concerned in our physical bodies and our well-being. So it's a really great time to slow down and be able to focus into the body, as your body might be a little bit more giving you a few more cues than previous, because it's like, hey, this is my time, I really want to communicate with you. Taurus is also very invested in stability, and a lot of that starts with our resources a lot of the time. Taurus really is about the things that make us feel safe, make our body feel good. So this includes food, it includes our home, our money, our financial resources, the things that we utilize to bring us safety and comfort. So Taurus is often very connected to the home space, as well as hosting and making safe space and making food for people and ourselves, and also is very interested in financial well-being. So Taurus is very aware of their resources and likes to have their things that make them feel comfortable and safe. So as the sun moves into Taurus, we might find ourselves thinking and taking stock of those kinds of things a bit more too. Taurus being a stable sign and an earth sign, it's also very grounded in terms of what can sometimes look like being stubborn. The sign of Taurus is the bull or the cow, and so when you think about a bull, you're not going to like push a cow over. It's standing there. It's very stubborn. We think of the term bull-headed, meaning like I've got my way and I'm not going to change my mind. So a lot of the time, if you're dealing with Taurus energy, it's not really a season of compromise. It's not really a time of flexibility. It's much more about getting very solid on your stance, on your beliefs, on your opinions, and really building a backbone into you. So for some people, this season is a really nice injection of that stability. If you're kind of a person who's a little bit more of a pushover, a bit more fluid or compromising, this can be a really great time to kind of learn what your stance is and what you take a stand for and what you won't be pushed on. For some people, if you're already fairly rigid in that way, you might find that this season's actually really challenging because you really don't want to compromise and you double down in that. So you might find that you have a bit of conflict, or you really do want to pay attention to that fact. A key thing to note is the stubborn nature of Taurus really is rooted in that desire for safety and security. So if you kind of notice yourself kind of digging your heels in and really not wanting to compromise, kind of think to yourself, okay, what about this scenario or what about this proposed change is making me feel unsafe? And how can I make sure that I maintain my security and maybe still be able to relax a little bit, maybe still compromise on the situation while maintaining my core value of safety and stability? So Taurus isn't really a fan of change. They're very, very stable. But when Taurus chooses to change something, they have a very, very strong capacity for follow through. One of the aspects of Taurus as being a very fixed sign is that they're incredibly capable and like have that staying power where everybody else maybe hits it really quickly and then burns out. Taurus is just going to slowly keep going and never really quit. So that stubbornness also applies to getting things done. It's a tenacity of the slow and steady wins the race. So with Aries season, often we get a bunch of like spark ideas, new ideas, but some of them kind of fizzle out. Whereas Taurus season brings in this energy of the things that matter and the goals that you really, really land on. you're going to get through to them, and you're not going to give up. So this, especially, for some people, maybe like me, who tend to like something new and exciting, but maybe don't have the best follow through, Taurus energy really does invite that commitment, really strong commitment. Not rushing can remind us that just because we start on something, we might really want to get that instant gratification and see that things are happening quickly. Taurus season isn't about quick gratification, it's that long-term buildup. So all of these are themes of Taurus season. So with the sun moving into Taurus on April 20th, all of these things are going to be a bit more prevalent. The next transit that we actually have a lot of transits here, so I should probably speed up to get through them before the sun sets. So the next transit we have is Mercury retrograding in Taurus on April 21st. So Mercury is already in Taurus, and Mercury is the planet of thought and communication and learning. So Mercury's already been on those Taurus themes. So we've already been thinking about, maybe we've slowed down with our thinking. We've decided not to need to speak so fast, but be a little bit more measured and thoughtful, and also pretty stand our ground on our opinions, and our conversation may be may sort of have a bit more of that sort of stubborn feel of, I'm not necessarily going to compromise in this conversation. I want to stand on my background here. So we've already been in that energy, but now Mercury is going retrograde. And whenever we have a retrograde, that the energy is invited to pull inward. It's this switch of direction. So where normally Mercury might be like, communicating out here, learning out here, and reaching outward, now the retrograde is pulling in and really inviting you to slow down even further. The energy of retrograde is much slower, and Taurus is already very slow paced. So the invitation is really like moving through butter here, really taking our time, really thinking about our words before we speak, really trying to think, what are my values? What makes me feel safe, secure? All of those Taurus themes. What is going to feel safe in my body, and how can I communicate that to other people? Mercury retrograde is maybe more about getting that script in line with yourself first, without having to communicate it right away. So really examining for yourself, what are my beliefs, what are my thoughts on my finances and my safety, and the things that I want to produce and grow and nurture in the long haul. That's all going to be a part of what Mercury retrograding is inviting us to really consider for ourselves. Get that straight. Be aware that because Mercury retrograde, in that conversation, if we're too quick to try to engage externally and we kind of miss that invitation to slow down, we can kind of get into arguments and fights. And with Taurus being very stubborn, what that'll kind of look like is like, nagging at each other, and nobody wants to compromise. Nobody wants to stand their ground because they're really just trying to solidify for themselves. It's really this desire to not compromise yourself and your own safety is often that foundation of when we argue with other people. We don't want to come around and see their side because we're nervous that nobody's looking out for our side. So if retrograde, we can really make sure that that you're listening to yourself first and foremost. You can never make anybody else listen to you, but if you know that you're listening to yourself, then you can feel just a little bit safe that at least somebody knows what your needs are, and that somebody's you, which is ultimately the most important person to do that. And then once you come from that safe, regulated position of knowing that you're not going to abandon yourself, knowing what it is that you stand for, then you can engage in that in a way that helpfully makes everybody feel safe in the conversation. So Mercury is going into retrograde on April 21st, right after Taurus season starts. And then the next one that we have, I'm not going to talk on this too much. It's a further out planet. So this is Pluto, furthest out in the solar system, which is apparently behind me, is going retrograde, or has already gone retrograde, but is going to be moving backwards into Aquarius on May 1st. So Pluto only just, because he's so slow moving, it takes so long to get through a sign. He just left. He just left a Capricorn. Just recently. So he's only just been in Aquarius for a little bit, and now he's going backwards again. So he's, so we've just started these Aquarius themes, talked about it a little while ago, and Aquarius is very much this innovation, this new technology, this grand leap and into the unknown, in where our minds can conceive of entirely new things, as well as a concern for freedom and humanitarian efforts. So Pluto as a planet is the kind of great destroyer, the bringing of chaos to wipe away an old order in order to bring forth a new order. So Pluto has just started to shake things up in the technological world and our world of innovation, but now he's going retrograde again. So he's going to go backwards into Aquarius, and then he's eventually going to head into Capricorn, but for now he's just turning around. So You might not necessarily feel this one personally because he's so far out, but that's going to look like even more of that kind of shake up and trying to, if retrogrades are all about words like reinvent, reconstruct, rethink, then Pluto is really going retrograde now, is going to be making this entire world rethink how we've examined technology, rethink how we've examined freedom, and how who gets to be free, who gets to have power in the world, and that's just going to be continuing on. So we'll be kind of seeing that reflected in the news around us. So that's going to be May 1st. Pluto is going into retrograde in Aquarius. The next we have Venus is going to be going into Cancer on May 7th. So Venus is this planet of relationships, of love, of values. And Cancer is a water sign. It's very emotional. It's the sign of the nurturer, the mother archetype. Very, very nurturing, emotional. Can sometimes be seen as quite moody. The sort of like a Cancer, so very giving and loving, but if they're hurt, they're like, oh, they can get really moody and crabby. So in our relationships, then we're going to have this kind of double-edged sword here, where we're going to really, really want to be loving and nurturing each other and our loved ones and taking care of them and being really generous and supportive and really caring in that kind of motherly way. But we can also have a tendency to, once we feel burnt out or feel like we've overgived without receiving, we can kind of retract and feel kind of emotional, feel kind of ill-used and moody and shut down. So there may be this tendency in this season to kind of go that back and forth, this like feeling of loving, almost love bombing and so taken care of, and then this like coldness or like, well, what about me now? I need to take care of myself. So as we, that kind of slingshot can be really tiring. So ideally, we really think about Cancer as a sign that is like this cup pouring out, and really saying that you can only pour from a cup that's full. So really wanting to make sure that we're pouring into ourselves, nurturing ourselves, having our needs met so that we can continue to nurture and give from a place of gratitude and generosity, rather than like overgrudging and feeling like we have to do it because no one else can take care of themselves. That's not a super nice energy to bring into our relationships. And of course, relationships aren't just romantic relationships. This can be family, friendships, anywhere that we really place value, and where we want to have our connection needs met. So our desires to connect might come from a more emotional heart place, where it's really this desire to really share our feelings, share our fears, our loves, our joys, and come from this kind of emotional place is going to be amped up when Venus moves into Cancer. Venus has been in Gemini, which has been kind of more fun, light, flirty, communicative. And now it's going to maybe feel a little bit more gravity, a little bit more serious, because Cancer is very, very, devoted and yeah, just kind of comes into that emotional, luxurious kind of nature. So Venus is going to revel in that. So as long as we are careful to make sure that we are keeping our reserves up and our needs met, and that we are hopefully communicating in a way that makes others feel safe with the retrograde, Mercury in retrograde at that time. We might be having this sort of synergy of wanting to be loving and emotionally cared for and having our emotional needs met, but also coming from this kind of Mercury Taurus, I'm feeling really stubborn and I don't want to compromise and back down. So we really, really want to be mindful of giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, and not necessarily demanding that somebody else meet your needs before you've had taken a chance to meet your own needs, and B, made clear what your needs are. It can be fairly famous for Cancer when they retreated into their little walls to sort of be like, you read my mind. Like, as a mother, and as a mother who gives, the mother energy of nurture is to give without being asked, is to know what has to be done and to do it anyway, because that's what a mother does. Or the infant is crying and asking for it in a general way, and mother kind of has to know what it is that they need, which means Cancer can sometimes want that for themselves. They just want their mind to be read, and they want to be cared for the way that they want to care for people, which is kind of like they're telepathic and they just know what needs to be done. But we can't assume that from people, and we certainly can't assume that if we're in a retrograde. So really do your best to take care of your own needs. Understand that everybody has emotions, including yourself, and that we might be a little bit more stubborn in our communication, but that's really coming from a place of desiring safety. And Cancer and Taurus really can synergize well when you're thinking about safe home energy. Both Taurus is interested in the home in terms of our physical resources, and Cancer is this emotional safe home. So both of them have a lot of shared values if you can kind of like, get out of your own way and don't have the hurt feelings or that stubborn nature kind of overrule the fact that really all you really want is to have everybody's needs met. So that'll be Venus going into Cancer on May 7th. Next, we have Mercury is going to be finishing this retrograde and moving direct again, so still in Taurus. So that'll be May 14th. So the retrograde will conclude. Hopefully all of that work of that inward focus has kind of brought a few more insights. And then with Mercury going direct again, it's a little bit easier to share those insights now. And hopefully that you've been able to kind of examine for yourself, I know my needs better. I know what makes me feel safe and secure. And I'm really learning how to communicate that better. Now that communication, the doors are open again. And once again, it's not to stampede over everybody else's needs. It's not to tell people how they can make you safe or how they need to make you safe and demand that of them. It is to offer them the better knowledge and the connection and the invitation to say, this is what I have learned about my needs. If you can meet them, that would be excellent. If not, I will meet them or I will make sure I can find somebody who can, not needing one person to meet them, but coming from that place of stability of, I'd love it to be able to connect with you and have us be able to have our needs be mutually met so that we're both richer and safer and more at home because of that. So that'll be May 14th, Mercury going direct in Taurus. Next, we have Jupiter is going to be joining the Taurus party on May 16th. So Jupiter has been in Aries for a little while. And Jupiter is this planet of expansion, as well as of kind of like good luck. And by good luck, I just sort of mean like ease. Jupiter tends to, wherever Jupiter is, that kind of, there's a little bit more flow, a little bit more ease. Things aren't quite so stuck in that area, but they're also expanded. So Jupiter's been in an Aries for a while, and Aries has a lot to do with our identity, our ego, but also our tendency, our warrior energy and our tendency to fight. So because Jupiter brings ease and expansion, that can go kind of either way. That means that, maybe it's a bit easier for us to figure out our identity, but also a bit easier to get angry. So Jupiter moving into Taurus is going to really bring a little bit more ease into our financial life, our kind of home, body, security life. So the things this is a really nice kind of feels like a nice reward after we've done Mercury going in retrograde in Taurus, because we've maybe had a little bit of more stress, or we've had to be working and thinking a little bit more about our security and safety needs. And then once we finish our retrograde, 2 days later, Jupiter jumps into Taurus and is like, I would love to give you all the blessings in this theme that hopefully now are going to be easier for you to access because you've done this examination and you've worked through this a little bit already. So, but because Jupiter expands, they're going to expand everything to do with Taurus. So that includes that very fixed, stable energy is going to get even more fixed and stable. So this can be really, really positive if we're trying to root into that groundedness. We're trying to stand our ground. We're really trying to learn about our values and not be pushed around by people. That's going to be an even more stable position. But again, if we're feeling really stubborn, if we're feeling like we don't want to compromise, Jupiter's going to expand that as well. And we're going to be even less likely to back down. So Jupiter is just going to bring, everything's going to be a little bit heightened. And so that's really kind of up to you how you want to play with that. You can bring that heightened energy to those areas that have greater need, and then just be aware that it might be kind of harder to shift some of those other things. So you don't need to fight against the energy. So if you're feeling like, I'm being really stubborn in Taurus, the thing I guess I have to do is overly compromise now to try to fight it. No, it's just more, make sure that you understand what you're standing on your ground is. So make sure that the value is worth your time, and that what you're going to be standing and grounded on, you've really examined that, and so that you know that this is a really valuable thing. And so, if we're really focusing on our body health and well-being and our attention to the body, Jupiter in Taurus is really going to make you, you might not be interested in hearing other people's opinions on what you should do with your body. If you're eating a certain way and other people might, what if you ate this way instead? You might be like, no, I'm going to do it my way. But that's really, really excellent if you have a very firm conviction of what it is that's right for your body. And other people might have opinions that work for them, but you're like, nope, actually, I know what works. I'm really working on my health, or I'm working on my rest. And I know that this is what I need. And then you're not necessarily going to be swayed by other people. So all of these things are very neutral. Being firm, being stubborn, being grounded is neutral. It really just depends on what you're grounded on and how kind you are to each other while you're doing that. So yeah, Jupiter entering Taurus May 16th is going to be, it's going to be really, really exciting, especially if you've done all that work already in the retrograde. Then Jupiter's just going to be like, yeah, make it rain, and all of the things that you're going to Jupiter and Taurus kind of is a bit of a make it rain sign, because Taurus has a lot to do with our money and finances, and Jupiter has this expansive blessing. So this might be a really kind of nice time for the cash flow, depending on what you're working on. So that might be nice, May 16th. And then we have one final transit of the main planets here, and that is going to be Mars entering Leo on May the 20th. So Mars has been in Cancer, has been our very, very strong heart emotional warrior, and now Mars has taken himself into Leo. So Mars is the planet of action. It's a planet of our masculine energy, and by masculine, it's not about gender, it's about a direction of force and motion. So masculine is the outward force. It is the action and the doing and the creating impact on the world. So Mars is how we take action, and is often also tied to our kind of sexual energy and our kind of conquest energy and our warrior energy. So Leo is connected to the sun, and is this has the energy of the king or queen or the sovereign. So the one who's kind of is superior in the way of they're the ones in power. So when we come into Leo season, we really think about our sovereignty and our right to be in control and have no one else tell us what to do for ourselves. So that of course can have, with Mars being our kind of combative energy as well, Leo can very much be a don't think you're the boss of me energy. We're like, I don't need bosses over me. I don't need to be told what to do. I have my own sort of ideas of what works for me, and I'm not going to bow to anybody else right now. So we might have an injection of that, which again, depending, it's very neutral how you take it. It's, for some of us, that's a really, really great confidence boost to say, yeah, actually, I am not to be pushed around. I have a say as a sovereign being to be able to make choices in my life. And so that might be a really great injection. For some of you, this might bring a little extra feeling that you're the one who's the boss. And so be sure that, Leo, you are the sovereign of yourself. You are not the boss of anybody else. So make sure that you are aware that your Leo kingdom starts and ends with you, and it doesn't necessarily include telling other people what to do. But not wanting to be told what to do is certainly within your purview. So Leo is not just about that sort of sovereign identity. It also really has to do with expression, heart expression. And what I mean by heart expression, I don't mean our emotions, but I mean our creativity. So Leo is very much the sign of the creator, the creative, and wanting to create the art and show it. So one of the ways that Leo is that kind of sovereign in the center of attention is because they love to be seen, and they love their creations to be shown to others and enjoyed and consumed and delighted upon. Leo is like the child that comes into the room with their painting that they've drawn, and they just tell everybody they want to know how great it is. They want that affirmation. So Leo really wants to create, wants to express, and wants to receive admiration and accolades for the creativity and the boldness and the courage it takes to express yourself to others. So with Mars and Leo, we might have a little bit more of our action directed to creativity, but also the showing of that creativity. It's not just making it at home and keeping it away. It's the desire to be seen. It's the desire to perform and to receive that admiration. So there might be a stronger reach out and wanting to receive admiration from others, and doing more for the sake of getting noticed. And that's a really beautiful, lovely thing. And that's one way that we interact in community really well, is creating and inspiring each other. So really don't be afraid to have that courage. Leo is that sign of courage, the bold lion, having courage to have the heart be shown. But there can also be an attachment to praise. And certainly Mars, being a little bit aggressive, can get really, really grumpy if they don't receive the accolades they think they deserve. So when we're in this season, there can also be a tendency to, maybe get unhappy or get hurt if we don't receive the praise that we think we want. So one of the things to remember is that if you want it, that is what you must do and give. So if you are craving acknowledgement and attention, there's nothing wrong with that. It's such a beautiful natural urge that we see in children, and it's really wonderful to still nurture and grow that as adults. And it is something that is then best displayed and shown. So the more you congratulate others, the more you reach out to others, the more you see others and pay attention to their expression and acknowledge them deeply from your heart, then the more you are also going to receive that light yourself. And it's a really beautiful reciprocal relationship of that radiant light. Leo being the sign of the sun, it's really just thinking of that light shining on others and then others receiving that light. So Mars in Leo is a really lovely creative time and has a really great potential for community building if kind of everybody can get on that train and acknowledge each other, and then also receive that acknowledgement that they crave as well. So that's Mars entering Leo on May 20th, right at the end of the season. And then Taurus will be the sun will be leaving Taurus the day after on the 21st. So that's that. That's all of the planets. I actually managed to get through that at a decent clip and not get too distracted by anything. I'll give you the moon dates. So our full moon lunar eclipse is in Scorpio is on May 5th. So we're actually in eclipse season. April 19th, just before Taurus season started, we had our new moon, our solar eclipse in Aries season. And so the first 2 weeks or so of Taurus season is going to be during that eclipse window. And then we have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio on May the 5th. And then following that, that'll close out the eclipse period. And then our next new moon, just a regular new moon, is going to be in Taurus on May the 19th. So that's your moon dates there. And that's that for the astrology. So I'm just going to pull now a single tarot card for everybody for the season. This is a good quick time for me to mention, of course, that I live here on the west coast of Canada. And there's a card, got that one there, and that I live and work on the unceded territories of the Lekwungen speaking people in the Esquimalt Songhees nations. I'm very grateful every day for the land that I live on, and that this is part of my gratitude and my work for doing a spiritual practice here on this land. So that's that. The card that I have for us for Taurus season, we have the Hanged Man. Let's see, this is the way, sorry, it is getting a little dark. This is the way he looks the right way. Here we go. So we have this man, he's upside down, he's hanging by his ankles by a rope into the trees here. Lots of green trees, and it's very, very bluescape kind of there. And we're going to see what the Hanged Man has for us today. So of course he's a major arcana. The Hanged Man, passion. At first glance, the upside down position of the Hanged Man appears to be rather grotesque. No wonder that strangeness, rapture, and the absurd are all elements of this card. But there is another important element. The Hanged Man is at peace with the world, except that his point of reference is not worldly but transcendental. His essence is suspended in the heavenly, the transcendental, in a manner reminiscent of religious images. At the same time, the picture could be interpreted as an underwater world, a land of dreams, or an other world, in which the Hanged Man is immersed. St. Francis's motto was metanoite, which I may have butchered the word, which can be translated as turn around and change. His symbol is St. Anthony's cross. Saul turned into Paul. Stories about shamans, sorcerers like Merlin, or gods like Odin abound, who all had to undergo severe trials during which each experienced a transformation. On the other hand, the picture hints at inappropriate passivity and a person who simply hangs on. The Hanged Man believes in the things to which he is attached, and he is attached to what he believes. How tragic it would be if the belief turned out to be superstition. So it is important to evaluate your own belief system, which may often involve turning everything upside down and completely changing your own point of view. Practical advice. Reassess your own beliefs and presumptions. If you have found your belief system to be valid, do not hesitate to place the utmost confidence in it. A meaningful faith and a purposeful passion are a great boon. Okay, so this card at first I was like, interesting, this is for Taurus season, but it's talking about transformation and change. Don't usually think about that. Taurus is very, very steady and stable. And then we kind of come to this last little bit where it's talking about this potential to be hanging on something inappropriately, or rather being attached to what you believe, but also this really importance of examining and constantly re-examining our beliefs in order to make sure that it still has value. So that kind of feels a little bit more like the retrograde, and actually to a degree the eclipses. Not really talking about the eclipses here, but there is this element of reflection, and because that retrograde is in Taurus, it really is a good opportunity to say, if on Taurus we stand firm, so what are we standing on? It would be really embarrassing or really difficult if what we're actually standing on is loose ground, or what I'm standing on is an old belief system that doesn't work for me, or what I'm standing on is somebody else's viewpoint that I don't actually really believe in. And then if I still stand my ground and get really stubborn because I don't want to be pushed over, but I'm just standing because I don't want somebody else to be right, rather than I actually affirm belief and trust in what I'm standing on. So this card is really inviting us to say, hey, what is it that you believe in? What is it that you're standing on? What is it that you're placing your security in, which is a very Taurus theme? Is it valid? Is it true? Is it something that you can still really feel safe and secure in? These are all valid questions, and you get to answer. This card isn't telling you which direction to go. It's just saying to do the work, to do that examination. And then when you do it yourself, it's not somebody else pestering at you. Then, it's easier not to have that kind of stubborn, sorry, a little dry throat there, that stubborn kind of like, don't push me sort of thing, because you're the one who's doing that examination. And so then once you've done that, and you've really checked that out, then you can really, really stand firm, have that extra commitment to that which you're kind of committing to, because now it's tried and tested, and you can really, if somebody asks you on it, you're like, yep, I can show my work. Yep, I've done this work. I know that what I'm not just standing here for the sake of standing. I'm here because this is really what I firmly believe in. So, and that there is still this element of transformation, and the Hanged Man does have this like topsy-turvy world, where a lot of the time, it's really about that perspective, that you can be looking at one thing from a completely different angle and everything will seem totally turned around. So there are some interesting elements here with Taurus season, which is a very practical sign. It's not necessarily doesn't really feel like this energy of the Hanged Man, which is kind of wild, kind of out there. So it's kind of interesting to I mean, personally, I love kind of those paradoxes where you're in one energy and then you have this whole other thing that says, but what about this way? What about this way? So maybe you can take that Hanged Man attitude of kind of that playful subjectivity of, what if actually the emperor has no clothes? What if actually the fool is the king? What if we just kind of play with this? And that can be part of how we examine that which we really believe, is to say, I believe this, but can I look at it from a different perspective? And do I still agree with it? This might seem really solid here, seem like a really good idea, but what if I looked from a different viewpoint? What if I asked somebody else? What if I just poke at it from a different direction? It's like just picturing the like old-timey movies, like the facade building, where it's like, the old Western, it's the building, but on a side, like it's just the front. It's just like this big piece of wood that's facing up. And if you looked on the side, like, that's not a building at all. But from here, it looks really substantial. So kind of being able to look at things from all angles and then make sure, is this foundation really, really solid? And if you can answer that and you've done all that work and the answer is yes, then you can really stand your ground and you will not be shaken no matter what. So that's the card. That's what's coming up for you this Taurus season and for all of us. So enjoy the sort of strength and stability that comes with this season. Really, really engage and check in with the body, and not necessarily having to be always driven by our conscience and our rational mind, but really allowing our body to have its own wisdom and have its own pace and its own say. I didn't really mention But Taurus is certainly a season of rest a lot of the time, really enjoying kind of lethargy, kind of picturing like the cow kind of lying on the grass, just having a nice time little nap, chewing their grass. So there might be an energy of, especially after Aries season, that has this really spark, spark, go, go excitement. This like, whoo, maybe time to rest, maybe time to nap, maybe time to luxuriate a little bit. Don't, there can be a tendency to lethargy and laziness as well and not do anything, the like cow that's not moving at all. So if that's, and for some of you, that's really what you need to do. Some of you really just need to stop. You just need to rest, just need to sleep and build up that energy, and then to be able to pick up that kind of plodding momentum later. So just be aware that for some of you, rest is something that's going to be really helpful, especially during that retrograde. So just going slow, and allowing the body rest to be part of the wisdom and part of the story there. Okay, so that's just the last little bit there. What else? So this is a Pay What You Can workshop. I would love it if you would bring some of that Jupiter in Taurus expansion my way, and give generously if this is something that you still find value in and that you enjoy receiving these from me. I really do appreciate it. I've been taking a step back from the Terrascopes for a while to give myself some room and rest to do some other things, and I still really want to keep going with these, but really only if it's something that you are finding value in. So feel free to let me know that this is something that you enjoy by those donations. And I guess I think that's it. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely Taurus season, and I'll see you next month.